John Edward Butts was a United States Army second lieutenant and rifle platoon leader who received the Medal of Honor posthumously for his actions that were above and beyond the call of duty during the Normandy campaign in France during World War II. Butts was one of 5 brothers to serve in the war and the only one who was killed in action. Butts was born on August 4th, 1922 in Medina, New York, to Jerry and Anna Butts. John attended the St. Mary's Parochial School, joined Boy Scout Troop 25, and then attended Medina High School and played right guard on the football team before enlisting in the National Guard on October 12, 1939. He enlisted while still in high school, largely to partake of the athletic activities that the Armory noted his father. John would later finish his high school requirements while in the Army. His brother Charles, a year older, joined the National Guard in 1940. The National Guard was federalized in October of 1940, and John left Medina soon after for training at Fort McClellan in Alabama. He was only 17 years old at the time, so he had to overstate his age in order to join the military. In February 1942, as part of Company F of the 108th Infantry Division, John and his brother Charles were sent to Hawaii 3 months after Pearl Harbor was attacked. In November of 1942, John returned to the mainland of the U.S. to attend Officer Candidate School at Fort Benning, Georgia. John graduated from officer school at the age of 19 and was commissioned as a second lieutenant. At that time, in 1942, it was noted that he was the youngest commissioned officer in the United States Army Ground Forces at that time. His service overseas began in North Africa with the invasion of French Morocco as a part of Operation Torch, where the 60th Regiment, 2nd Battalion, encountered heavy resistance from German forces at an ancient fortress called the Kasbah. The 9th Infantry Division earned its first presidential unit citation during the Battle of Sejuani, where the unit repulsed a 4-pronged attack from 2 German infantry battalions. Butts was then sent to participate in the invasion of Sicily, landing at Palermo on August 5, 1943, remaining on the ground there until November of 1943. He was cited for bravery during the invasion of Sicily. And then after 7 months of training at Winchester, England, in preparation for the Allied invasion of the mainland, the 60th Infantry Regiment landed at Utah Beach just 5 days after the D-Day landings. Butts was placed in command of 4 squads in Easy Company of the 60th Regiment, 2nd Battalion, 9th Infantry Division, charged with driving towards St. Colombe, France. On June 12, 1944, the 2nd Battalion progressed so quickly towards their objectives that the remainder of the 9th Infantry Division thought that the 60th Infantry was lost. But in fact, the 2nd Battalion had pushed forward through heavy German resistance and established a bridgehead at the Doe River. Butts was wounded twice, first near Orleans on June 14th, and then at the Doe River just 2 days later. Both times, he refused medical treatment because he wanted to stay with his men. On June 23rd, 1944, the 60th Infantry led the 9th Division's advance from the Cotentin Peninsula as part of the breakout from Saint-Lô, while moving towards Flotte-Maleville-Hague, or something like that. Butts and his men encountered a German stronghold atop a hill, well defended with tanks, machine guns, and mortars. Butts was struck in the stomach by machine gun fire while moving towards the objective. Pulling himself into the shelter of a nearby hedgerow, he planned a flanking maneuver with his sergeants. One squad was to progress up the left flank, the other up the right flank, and the third was to remain in reserve, holding one hand over his midsection and the other grasping his carbine. Butts charged the hill alone. The might of the entire German stronghold fell on him directly. Butts fell to the ground approximately 10 yards from his objective. The distraction allowed the 2 flanking squads to outmaneuver the Germans, while the 3rd squad hit him head-on. Here's what his Medal of Honor citation states, quote, John E. Butts heroically led his platoon against an enemy in Normandy, France, on the 14th, 16th, and 23rd of June, 1944, although painfully wounded on the 14th and again on the 16th while spearheading an attack to establish a bridgehead position across the Doe River. He refused medical aid and remained with his platoon. A week later, he led an assault on a tactically important and stubbornly defended hill studded with tanks, anti-tank guns, pillboxes, and machine guns, emplacements protected by concentrated artillery and mortar fire. As the attack was launched, 2nd Lieutenant Butz, at the head of his platoon, was critically wounded by German machine gun fire. Although weakened by his injuries, he rallied his men and directed one squad to make a flanking movement while he alone made a frontal assault to draw hostile fire upon himself. And once more he was struck, but by grim determination and sheer courage continued to crawl ahead. When within 10 yards of his objective, he was killed by direct fire. By his superb courage, unflinching valor, and inspiring leadership actions, 2nd Lieutenant Butz enabled his platoon to take a formidable strongpoint and contributed greatly to the success of his battalion's mission. Unquote. His brother Charles, who visited John's body, wrote home to their parents, quote, "John's life reached a glorious end. It terminated exactly as John hoped it would, while performing magnificently in the face of the enemy in an effort to relieve pressure on his men and buddies." Unquote. Thinking back about John, his father, Jerry Butz, later remarked, quote, "Even as a young boy, John was fearless." Unquote. Now, the body of John Butz was interred at the U.S. Cemetery at Saint-Mère-Église on June 25, 1944. Then on April 8th of 1948, the body was disinterred and sent home for burial at Medina. His body arrived in Buffalo on July 7th, 1948, at the Connecticut Street Armory, along with the remains of two other Medal of Honor recipients, PFC William Gabrez and PFC Charles de Glopper. He was buried in the family plot at the St. Mary's Cemetery in Medina. Since then, the name of Lieutenant John E. Butz has been memorialized many times. The John E. Butz Army Airfield at Fort Carson, Colorado, an ocean-going ship, the Lieutenant John E. Butz Streets, 3 to be precise, one at Fort Carson, Colorado, one at Fort Benning, Georgia, and one at Fort Dix, New Jersey, the Butz Clark's American Legion Post in Medina, New York, a display at the Utah Beach Museum in Normandy, and the John E. Butz Memorial Park in Medina, New York. The location of his medal, well, that is located at the Public Library in Medina, New York. But there's one thing about Butz that I haven't shared because I'm not quite sure what happened. And to find out what that's all about, stay tuned for some footnotes. Welcome to Footnotes. You may have noticed during my presentation today that the one thing I didn't mention that I try to mention is where and when the Medal of Honor was given, either to the person himself or to their family or whoever it may be, and who did the award, where was it? I think that's important information if you can find it. Can't always find it. And this is a case where I was not having a lot of luck finding it, and I wasn't having any luck finding who gave out the information. So I was looking at my smartphone when I got an idea, and you know how dangerous those smartphones are. But the search thing on it was Google, and it had the little search AI thing, which I'd never used. So I gave it a try, and I thought, well, I'll try something else too, and we'll compare the results. So here we go. AI alert. This was the information that I found by myself. Quote, awarded on July 19, 1945 by President Harry Truman, John Butz Medal of Honor citation references the 2 painful wounds he received. Okay, that tells us who did it and when, but not where, and so we'll go and we'll check Google. So here's what Google's AI said. John E. Butz Medal of Honor was presented posthumously to his parents on August 29, 1945. The award was given by a representative of the United States government, although the specific individual is not mentioned in the available information, unquote. Okay, so then I thought, well, why not try Grok? I've used Grok for a few things, mostly like trying to create logos and stuff. And here's what Grok says, quote, "The Medal of Honor for Second Lieutenant John E. Butts was presented to his parents, Jerry and Anna Butts, by Army Brigadier General Ralph K. Robertson. The ceremony took place at the Medina Armory in Medina, New York on August 29th, 1945. So the two AIs agree on the date, but not on who gave the award out. And the other information I found says Truman did it, but it doesn't say where he did it. So I hate to do this because I like to get this information, as solid as I can. I spend quite a bit of time researching, but in this case, there's no way to tell for sure. Now, if you have some information you might think is important to this, that you might think is, really solid info, let me know about it. Put it in the comments, email me, whatever you want to do, because I'd love to know more information about this. And if we do get some updated stuff that I can check out and confirm, I'll let you know in a future edition of Footnotes. And I might even come back and update this video, although I'm not quite sure how you do that in YouTube and keep things all copacetic. So I'm still learning YouTube, as you can tell by looking at the number of views this video has. Speaking of which, oh man, I really need your help. We're a brand new little show here. I don't have some big corporation backing me up. I'm not famous. Nobody knows who I am. So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. Give it a thumbs up. That's really, really important. And then tell some friends about it. Maybe share this video on your social media if you do social media, like, Facebook or X or Instagram or whatever, and tell them about it. It would really be a big help, and I would sure be grateful for that. So till next time, this is Louis saying thank you so much for watching. God bless you, and we'll be back next week.